He showed me things that haven't happened yet. There were so many monsters. And they were coming into Hawkins, into our neighborhoods, our homes.
I want you to tell Eleven. I want you to tell her everything you see.
When Stranger Things originally came out, the first season managed to be such a well-made blend of genres that I could show it to almost anyone in my family and they would relatively enjoy it, which is a rarity considering their preferences. And while the following seasons were hit or miss for the most part, personally, I found season 4 to be my favorite of the entire series. And while this video won't necessarily be a review of that season by any means, it is the season I'll be comparing to the most in regards to another series such as Welcome to Derry, or the It films that Welcome to Derry is based on. But in regards to Welcome to Derry, when the plot details for this show were originally released long ago, there were many quick to claim that this would be a Stranger Things ripoff. And while I can see where some of those complaints were coming from, just conceptually speaking, I think at the end of the day, I'd argue that Stranger Things is more of a Stephen King ripoff than anything, as well as a blending of several different big movies from whatever era it's representing. Not to say that being inspired by many different stories doesn't make the narrative any less interesting, but I would actually advocate for storytellers to incorporate different genres and themes that they've seen or take inspiration from in different places. The key to doing this is essentially just doing it well. In this video, I'll be primarily noting the parallels between the two. And while Welcome to Derry is really only getting started and is subject to change as the seasons or even the episodes progress, it is the spooky season, so I wanted to go ahead and make this video. Like with other properties, whether it be film or TV, you can share a genre and still be relatively entertaining. Think of the genres revolving around paranormal, zombie, or even slashers. Formulas can help create a really awesome foundation. And looking at both Stranger Things and Welcome to Derry, you can really see the similarities in their formula. And again, I will be referencing a bit of the movies of it, but I'll primarily be focusing on Welcome to Derry. Let's start with some of the common similarities between the two. Both are period pieces, but I would say fully utilizing the circumstances taking place during that time period within their narrative. Another similar vibe you can see between these series are the tone. You get scenes that balance a joyful and warm nostalgia and juxtapose it with a more gritty, dark, sinister overtone. These tonal shifts can really help bring balance to the pacing of the story. And while these tonal shifts can happen between entire sequences, but let's cut to another similarity both Welcome to Derry and Stranger Things holds, that of the premise. The premise being a group of kids investigating the disappearance of their friend, uncovering dark, mysterious lore to the town that the government may even be involved in, both dealing with a threat that can tap into your deepest fears and use it against you. This summary does pretty much encapsulate both series, but I think the key difference is the level of safety between the series' characters. See, when it comes to any narrative or storytelling, it's hard to develop a risk factor without showing some risks. And in my last Welcome to Derry video, I broke down why it's so important to kill off characters no matter how interesting they may be. But some risks with characters that older films and series wouldn't really approach, that we're beginning to see more of in your modern day television series and movies, is when you put actual kids in danger rather than teenagers or adults. Usually the golden rule with a lot of films is you don't end up hurting a kid of any kind. So usually when it happens, it's either an extreme rarity, and it's usually a pretty traumatic event for at least one of, if not many, of the characters involved in the story. But I remember a long time ago, there was an older film called The Blob. I was a bit younger when that came out, so I'm going to paraphrase the story, but essentially this giant meaty blob would go around town basically sucking up different people and killing them. But when it killed them, it kind of burned off their flesh and melted them into this organism that it was developing. Either way, we follow a few of the characters throughout the film as they try to escape this blob. A babysitter and two of the kids she was babysitting decide they'd go down to the sewers to seek help from Pennywise to stop this thing. I think Pennywise was busy at the time though, so they end up running away through the sewers from this blob.
I'll be good, I swear. I'll never see a movie ever again. It's gonna be okay.
12 seconds later.
And when they see a ladder where they can escape, they all start swimming towards it. And just as they make it to the ladder and begin to climb, one of the kids, not the babysitter, the kids gets pulled away and devoured by the blob. I remember as a kid, this scene really stuck with me, and I had to ask whoever was showing me this horrible, horrible film if that child actually just died. Because in my own mind, that was off limits. See, as a kid, it makes it easier to watch these horror movies because everyone dying is usually older than you. And as an adult, usually kids end up surviving a lot of these horrific situations because an adult is likely to sacrifice themselves to protect a kid no matter what. This is just an example of how our brains would switch from a fearful mode to a more overprotective kind. But in the series of both Stranger Things and especially Welcome to Derry, the adults are kind of useless in these situations. Minus Hopper and Winona Ryder, of course. Now these are absolute G's of a story. The first season had Joyce being #1 Mom of the Year award, with her desperate need to find her son driving the heart of the story. Then you have Hopper, with his history with his own family, helping him find some growth and getting through grief. And while some of the other adults help move the plot along, and others not so much, when it comes to characters like Joyce and Hopper, they're definitely all-stars when it comes to the adult cast. See, for the most part, these kids have to deal with this situation completely on their own. But this group in Stranger Things are definitely the closest thing we have to a family out of the three. See, in Stranger Things, you have a group of kids who grew up together. They have a very tight bond, and their bond is so strong that it propels the story forward when it comes to looking for one of their own who goes missing. The bond between the core four and their dynamics are explored within each season, and sort of take up the coming-of-age aspect of the story. The Losers Club didn't have a necessarily super tight friendship beforehand. Once the Losers Club was finally established, they all kind of came together. And while they did have some fun times together, and were able to take on Pennywise and walk away with their lives, they did become pretty close within the movies, and uncomfortably close within the books. But then they hit a huge time gap where they separated as adults and forgot most of their experiences. Some of them barely even remembering each other. Obviously, there is some paranormal effect going on that causes this. Retrospect, the group just didn't start off as tight and didn't remain as tight as the kids from Stranger Things. And you have the actual losers of Derry in Welcome to Derry. The reason I call them the actual losers is because at the beginning they seem to follow the same formula as the Losers Club. They all come together to investigate the disappearance of their missing friend. Though, unlike the Losers Club, who basically saw that Pennywise was real and decided to slide for their brother Georgie who got taken out, putting Pennywise in his place twice and teaching him a lesson, in Welcome to Derry, it took one theater experience to really shake these kids away from worrying about their friend and more focused on Pennywise as a whole. There's also the fact that in Stranger Things, the kids are relatively brave to be doing the things they're doing, but they do tend to treat every one of these experiences like some magical adventure. Even when the show became a straight-up horror, they all still technically survived, in some way, shape, or form. Versus, with the Losers Club, they knew what they were getting into when trying to take on Pennywise both times. Pennywise's ego did really set himself up in the first place, but altogether, with Maturin's help, and the strongly alluded to idea that some of these kids, or all of them, could have the shine, you really do gotta give the Losers Club props. With both evil entities they're dealing with targeting their fears specifically because kids happen to have more fears than others. But let's take a look at each of these entities hunting folks down. In Stranger Things, you have Vecna, a kid born with very powerful mental abilities, who ends up getting sent to an alternate dimension by the protagonists of the show, and while they're in this dimension, they rebuild their power to the point where they can come back and take their revenge. And then you have the entity of It, otherwise known as Pennywise. This ancient cosmic being existed before our planet even did, and eventually, upon landing on our planet, decided to stay in the location that would eventually become the small lumber town of Derry, resurfacing from where it landed every 27 years and claiming several new victims and causing mysterious and relatively unexplained massacres through each generation. And while Vecna goes after kids with a weaker mind and a lot of fears so he can more easily take control and rip them apart from the inside out, in his eyes, I tend to believe he's actually helping his victims, finding the world cruel and them too weak to be a part of it, letting them live on forever within his own mind and growing in strength. For with each victim he takes down and absorbs, he does grow a little bit stronger. Now correlate this to It, or Pennywise, who specifically targets people with a lot of fear because it feeds off of said fear altogether. It doesn't necessarily require this fear, but there is kind of a big difference in the threat level of both of these entities. See, while Vecna is almost an unstoppable threat unless you yourself happen to possess mental powers close to, if not stronger than his own, when it comes to Pennywise, and with the potential help of a cosmic turtle, you can smite this being down using only your words. There's also the fact that the shows are tackling the big bad evil guy in different directions. See, Stranger Things is heading towards its final season, meaning our story with Vecna is likely coming towards an end, and we'll get to see how the group come together and stop this guy once and for all. Versus in Welcome to Derry, we're following It, or Pennywise, before they were ever defeated in the first place. And each season of Welcome to Derry will be following the massacres every 27 years beforehand. Some massacres taking place in the interludes of the It book, and some massacres being what the Losers Club investigated when trying to figure out more about Bob or Pennywise. See, one common thing between the books and the It films specifically with Stranger Things is that they carry this vibe that the main cast are the same people you'll be following throughout most of the story. And the idea that any of them will be killed off is sort of unlikely, unless it's towards the very end of the story. However, when it comes to Welcome to Derry, we're not following the story of a couple of underdogs going and stopping a big bad evil entity. We're following the story of how this big bad evil entity wreaked havoc across this poor innocent town that's extremely racist and awful to its residents for generations upon generations. With the lingering question being, does Pennywise or It cause the evil that begins to stir every 27 years and linger for the years between? Or is it the town's consistent magnetization towards evil that summons Pennywise back every single time? Either way, I'm sure by the end of the Welcome to Derry series, they'll have a much higher body count than the ending of the Stranger Things series. That being said, with the ending of Stranger Things coming up, I'm sure a lot of our main cast are likely to go. Or maybe even just one or two. Either way, I'm just rooting for Steve, Max, and Lucas to make it out okay. But what about you guys? Do you enjoy Welcome to Derry and Stranger Things? Do you prefer one over the other? And which characters do you think are likely to bite the dust in both? Either way, whether you enjoy the series separately or enjoy the series similarities altogether, hopefully both series end up sticking the landing.
See, humans
All of the tunnels are underground,
are a unique type of pest, multiplying,
where none of the children will ever be found.
poisoning our world, all while enforcing a structure of their own. A deeply unnatural structure.
They wandered away to join
Everyone
the show
is just
and lost
waiting,
their way in the world
waiting
below.
for it all to be over. A cruel, oppressive world dictated by made-up rules.
Join the circus and left their town.
Don't be afraid.
Down with
Life, a faded, lesser copy of the one before. Wake up, eat, work, sleep, reproduce, and die.
There is nothing you can't do to stop this now. Hawkins will burn and fall, and the rest of this senseless, broken world.